Hello, everybody. This is Nanette Kennedy with Humanities Team and the Evolution Revolution. And we are reading The God's Solution. And we're going to be finishing that today. Today is May 16th, 2021. And we are on chapter 28 of the book. And I'm going to hand it over to Linda. And she can also tell us the name of our next book. Take it away, Linda.
Okay, welcome everybody. So we're on page 126. It's chapter 28 of The God Solution. And let's see, let me look at what the next book is. So the next book is The Only Thing That Matters, which is the second Conversations with Humanity book. So that's picking up where we left off when we finished The Storm Before the Calm. Then we jumped to this one because it was new. And so we'll go pick up. The only thing we haven't talked about is we had mentioned we wanted to read the Pope's encyclical, and I don't know if we still want to do that. So we'll have to decide that. And I'll go ahead and get reading, I guess.
Thank you.
Oh, now it doesn't want to take me back to Zoom. There we go. Okay. Okay. So chapter 28. Ultimately, as you achieve a new level of mastery in being human, you will notice that what you wish to experience in the end often has very little to do with the physical elements of life and everything to do with its metaphysical elements. Your highest desire will not center on the having or doing of something, but rather the being of something. You will yearn to be more understanding and more loving, to be more caring and compassionate, to be even more generous and giving, to be humorous and light-hearted, and welcome in everyone's home. In short, you will yearn to demonstrate divinity. You will want to experience through the expression of it who you really are. You will realize that this has been in moments when you have achieved this in the past that you have felt fulfilled. The experience is one of pure bliss, which is the inevitable effect of pure love having been projected by you into your environment. This approach to life can change your priorities overnight. It would change the entire planet in the blink of an eye if the largest number of us adopted these priorities. To use a metaphor, it would totally upset the apple cart. We have been told that survival is humanity's fundamental instinct. This is an inaccurate piece of information, yet that's the apple cart as it's presently set up. We've passed on this false axiom from generation to generation, allowing it to dictate far too many of our individual and collective local, global, minor and major decisions throughout the history of our species. If survival were the basic instinct, we would not run into the burning building. Let me explain. Imagine that a person is walking down the street and suddenly notices that a building off to the left is on fire. Oh my God, they exclaim. And in the next instant, they hear a baby crying from inside the building. Now, does that person stand there and think about things? Do they weigh the odds? Let me see. If I run in there, I could get caught in the flames. I might not even find the baby. Gee, I wonder what the odds are if I could survive this. No, of course not. Psychological studies have shown that the average person would race into the building immediately with no thought for their personal safety. This is because humanity's fundamental instinct is not survival. It is the expression of divinity. The question in that moment is not whether you're going to live or die, but how you're going to live or die. And that question answers itself in the blink of an eye precisely because the response is instinctive. Now, the secret to life, to see every moment as a burning, building moment. Oh, okay, I got it. Now, the secret of life is to see every moment as a burning, building moment. The secret to being able to express pure love in your life is to allow your real basic instinct the expression of your true identity. When you change your life's priorities to be all that you truly are, you will have engaged at last the agenda of the soul. You will have remembered your reason for living, and you will have remembered the truth about your divinity, which is that God gives all and requires nothing in return. You have solved the God dilemma, and deep inside you are clear that every other dilemma in your life, and even every other human-made problem on earth, could also be resolved if enough of us were to decide that God is pure love, that we are pure love, and that all it takes to change our individual lives and the world is to demonstrate pure love. That will, I assure you, upset the apple cart, because it will pull the underpinning from humanity's current political, economic, social, spiritual realizations for our whole way of living.
Hej Elin!
Hej Dina! Ser jag ja?
Ja, jag ser det.
Bima, you're
Jag hör det
unmuted.
också.
Bima, you're unmuted.
Hur är det med dig? Jo. Jag kunde inte få...
Nanette, can you mute her? Thank you. Okay. It is for this reason that I have urged people to upset those carts in a peaceful, nonviolent, but clear and intentional manner whenever and wherever they can. Apple cart upsetting is not something that many people on this planet like to see done. They don't want anyone tampering with their most sacred beliefs. Never mind that those constructions and religious dogmas have done little to produce a world free of hatred, violence, and fear. Never mind that those moral values and teachings about God have failed to eliminate suffering, reduce abject poverty, or even do something as simple as end hunger on our planet. Even if their beliefs are clearly and demonstrably ineffective in producing the outcomes they are intended to produce, most human beings cling to those beliefs with a stubborn rigidity that is both shocking and appalling. For instance, did you know that the pathological and archaeological discoveries of the past quarter century notwithstanding, surveys show that over 40% of this planet's population continue to believe that the world is no more than 10,000 years old? People believe what they want or need to believe in order to support their previously held point of view. In a startling number of instances, it truly is a case of don't bother me with the facts. Nowhere is this greater evidence than in our 4,300 religions. We know what we know about God, and we don't want to hear anything else. And there's a powerful reason for this. I've pointed it out explicitly and unambiguously in this book's narrative. Our thoughts about God form the bedrock of our entire understanding of life. This is why the God dilemma is no small thing. Yet even though many, many people agree that our species has still not gotten its act together around the question of a higher power after hundreds of thousands of years, a solution to the God dilemma may not even be welcome. Why? Because it could be the great apple cart upsetter of all time for many agnostics, atheists, and adherents alike. Since most people want to leave their religious beliefs alone, we find ourselves insisting on building a life in the first quarter of the 21st century with first century spiritual tools. In medicine, this would be like trying to perform surgery with a very quick very sharp stick. In technology, it would be like trying to send a rocket to the moon with the spark off a flintstone. In science, it would be like trying to conduct an experiment in the dim light from the opening of a cave. Still, leaving our religious beliefs untouched could make sense if those tools were working. But we are not allowed to even question if they're working. The problem is not with the tools, we tell ourselves. The problem is that not enough people are using them. Yet a keen observer would realize that the problem is exactly the opposite. The problem is that we are using them, and we're using them against each other. Thus, the tools of our most ancient religions have become ineffective, to put it mildly, in creating a world of peace, harmony, sufficiency, and dignity for all. So if we end this book with the same question, with which we began. What is wrong here? It's a question we're not supposed to ask. We're supposed to keep doing the same over and over again, expecting to get a different result. And that, of course, is the classic definition of insanity. Like a fly against a window pane, we keep banging our head against that which we do not see, or in our case, which we refuse to see, that there must be something fundamentally flawed in our current beliefs about God, about life, and about ourselves, or we would be way past where we are now in our social and spiritual development. So the inquiry that arises is, are we willing to consider the possibility that there may be something we do not fully understand about God, about life, and about who we are, the understanding of which would change everything? Are we willing to consider new ideas, new thoughts, new constructions within the human story, even if they seem on the surface to contradict what we think we already know about God and life? Can we at least explore their possibilities? The explorations here have offered you an opportunity to do just that. The suggestion is that one thing we can do that could, even if enough of us do it, help change the course of humanity's future, is to encourage the adoption of a new ethic for our species. We're talking about a new personal ethic, a new business ethic, a new political ethic, a new economic ethic, a new medical, educational, spiritual, and sexual ethic. This would require, it feels to me, the embracing of a new, collectively held idea about God, because even those who do not believe in God are affected and impacted by the 8 out of 10 humans who do, and whose idea about the higher power form the ethical basis of their choices and decisions. Yes, considering and embracing a new collectively held idea about God would be an experiment. We'd have to try and see if it works. But I have this thought about it. Like the man who said the earth revolves around the sun, like the man who said germs exist and we need to sterilize against them, like the woman who insisted that jumping genes are not junk DNA. If we all decided to be idea heroes, we could turn the unbelievable into the believable. Everything on earth could change for the better virtually overnight if enough people were to made aware of, allowed themselves to be open to, and embraced a new definition of God, seeing the higher power as a self-conscious, self-aware, pure, and undifferentiated energy which manifests as a feeling, and calling that feeling pure love. Every human being is the spiritual and physical essence of pure love, and each person can express that energy by consistently, consciously engaging in the act of melding human emotions and divine feelings, then projecting that energy into the world in all the key moments of life. There it is in 100 words. The 2 paragraphs above, just above, have summed up this entire text and provided us with what may just be the formula you have been looking for. You could, if you wanted, to find a way to share those 100 words with others. I understand that you'd have to be an idea hero to do it, but isn't that a perfect description of you? It must be, or you would never have finished this book. That's the end, and now we have the afterword. Do we want to discuss before we read the afterword?
All I have to say, which is kind of funny, is I can't find it.
That's funny.
Well, I discovered where the cartoon TV show The Flintstones came from.
What?
He says, if I could find it, something about a flint space stone. And I got stuck there thinking, oh, that's where the name of the Flintstones came from. And that's all I've got to say. Weird in that moment.
The only thing I have to say is that that part about how we really are pure love and that's like our expression of divinity. There was something he said, and it's like, I remember when I was little being too afraid to be that. Like I'd have those impulses towards people, like of kindness and stuff, but I was scared, so I wouldn't do it. And for me, a lot of life has just been getting past that fear of totally embracing being that loving energy with regard to other humans, particularly. So that kind of resonated with me. That's all I have to say.
Well, shall we read on then?
All right. We'll finish the afterword. Thank you for taking this journey with me. It is a source of inspiration for me to know that there are idea heroes everywhere willing to look at and to explore, to poke and to prod, to challenge and even to change some old ideas and long-standing beliefs, and to see if there might not be a new way for us to proceed as a species heading into an uncertain future. As a part of our exploration, I invited you to play a bit with an idea, watching what thoughts run through your mind about what a new belief system could look like if you were to start your own religion. I'm curious about something now. As you considered this invitation, did it become clear to you that you really have some very concrete ideas about God? Or conversely, did you experience that you have not thought about a higher power in such a specific way? In this afterword, I'd like to take a look now at some of what you may have come up with. If you created your own religion, would it be pragmatic or dogmatic? That is, would it offer room for variances in the on-the-ground application of your religion's messages as people grow in their understanding of life? Or would it require everyone to never vary on any principle or teaching in its canon? What do you think would work best to make the world a better place? If you created your own religion, would it be inclusive or exclusive? That is, would it have space for people of differing ideas, of differing sexual orientations, of differing objectives in their spiritual and temporal life? Or would it require unwavering adherence to one way of life and one way only? What do you think would work best to make the world a better place? If you created your own religion, would it declare that human beings are more than simply mammals, but are spiritual entities comprised of the foundational energy that sources all of life? Or would it announce that those who imagine themselves to be made of the same energy that sources life are instruments of evil? What do you think would work best to make the world a better place? If you created your own religion, would it encourage toleration? Yeah, that's what it says. Toleration, acceptance, and love for those who choose not to belong to it? Or would it call for judgment, condemnation, and eternal punishment for everyone who does not embrace it? What do you think would work best to make the world a better place? Finally, if you created your own religion, would it offer clear and unambiguous instructions on the nature and use of the higher power on which it would presumably be based? Or would it keep such foundation formulas under wraps and out of reach for all but the most elite of its members? What do you think would make the world a better place? Before we say goodbye, may I join now in the thought experiment? I'd like to offer my responses to the questions that conclude Chapter 3. See what you think of them. If I were Chief Operating Officer of the universe and could have things my way, here is this perspective I would bring after my 76 years on this planet and given where I am on my evolutionary process. Question number 1. Does the higher power that some of us call God, what does the higher power that some of us call God consist of? Is it an individual spiritual entity, something like a giant human being with particular features that could be recognizable to or maybe even resemble our species? My answer. In my religion, the element or aspect of ultimate reality that many people call God would not be described as a singular entity in the way that most people use the term. It would not be thought of as a huge, big, enormous person with a human male or female physical characteristics, nor subject to human emotional experience such as fear, anger, upset, approval, agreement, or need of any kind. It would also not be defined as a force without self-awareness or consciousness, such as, for instance, the force of gravity. Rather, it would be defined as a self-conscious energy, an essential essence that is aware of itself. Think of this in the same way you might conceive of a thought. Your thought is not a person, it is an energy, but it is aware of itself. You can think about what you're thinking about. You can even have a thought about what you had a thought about, what you had thought. Okay, let me do it again. You can even have a thought about what you had a thought about, what you had a thought about. You can go as far into this hall of mirrors with this as you wish. That becomes close to what I mean when I say God is a self-conscious energy that is aware of itself. My religion would also teach that this energy is the signature vibration of the cosmos, a particular and very specific frequency modulation that is both the originating and organizing principle of everything, physical and non-physical. If I were speaking metaphorically, I might even call God the stem cell of the universe. We have learned in relatively recent times that all living things contain what have been labeled stem cells. These are the earliest cells to form in any physical body. They have no specific characteristics, but rather carry the coding for all possible characteristics. Eventually, these undifferentiated cells differentiate, generating particular and specific elements of various body parts. Using the power of analogy, God could be described as an essential essence which differentiates to become all that we call physical and metaphysical. Thus, God is the source of everything and therefore needs nothing. My religion would teach as well that God is not just the source of everything, but the substance of everything. The source and the substance pretty much sums it up. This means that the idea that separation exists in the universe would be a misunderstanding. We are neither separate from nor other than God, any more than a wave rolling on the surface of the ocean is separate from or other than the ocean itself. It is an arising of the ocean in a particular form, and it recedes back into the ocean when its individual expression is complete. The metaphor is a perfect description of our relationship with the divine. My religion would teach that God is the original formless form of this essential essence, which, as it is expressed and projected, generates a unique, singular, and specific effect, producing what sentient beings would call a feeling. Humans who have experienced themselves to have been touched by God have tried for millennia to portray or characterize this feeling. They have consistently settled on words which, taken together, could, I believe, be reduced into the single phrase, I have chosen pure love. Speaking in fewer words, then, my religion would declare that God is pure love. Question number 2, what is desire? If God needs nothing, does God even have desires? My proposed answer, yes. Needs and desires are not the same thing. My religion would teach that it is the desire of the divine to continually create as a means of experience in fullness the wonder of its essential essence. Yet life is not a quid pro quo arrangement. God does not create in order to get something back from that which God creates. God creates for the sheer joy of it. That is what God gets back, sheer joy. So God does not have to demand something in return from that which God creates, nor does God decimate that which fails to give in return what God demands. God experiences creation, I would offer, by placing within all sentient beings the power to collectively create their exterior reality, and to individually create their interior experience of all exterior events and circumstances, all through the exercise of free will. The desire to create has been imbued in all sentient beings, who are never happier than when they are engaged in any creative activity, whether it is building something, trying something, producing something, inventing something, designing something, drawing something, painting something, composing something, cooking something, singing something, writing something, or simply rearranging the furniture in the living room or the flowers in a vase, or the placement of the food in the refrigerator. Nothing gives us more satisfaction, nothing gives us more fulfillment, nothing gives us more pleasure than self-expression in any form. It is precisely the same way with God. An important aspect of this question about God's desires is this: is it God's desire to punish souls with the everlasting damnation of eternal and indescribable suffering if God's mandates are disobeyed? Does God even have mandates as opposed to desires? My religion would teach that the answer is no to both questions. It would offer that, given that God is pure love, God has neither a need nor a desire to punish anyone for not doing what God wants, because there is nothing that God wants or requires from us in order to be perfectly happy, any more than we would need or require something from a 3-year-old much less a baby. My religion would teach that we are babies in the eyes of God. And even if we weren't, God would have no need to punish us for behaviors that only those who do not fully understand who they are and why they are here would exhibit. Even in human legal systems, adults can be found innocent by reason of insanity. If we were smart enough and compassionate enough to create such an awareness of the innocence of persons who are not capable of thinking straight, would not all the more God do so also? Some other religions have taught that God will punish us for offenses, even of those offenses, if those offenses keep changing from time to time, place to place, and culture to culture. But could it be that we are a young civilization still struggling to find itself and to decide what we think is right and wrong, much less what God thinks? To offer just one example, is exchanging sexual pleasure for money okay or not okay? Is it legal or illegal? Well, that depends on where you live, doesn't it? Brothels operate entirely legally in certain countries or in certain counties in Nevada in the United States. And of course, Amsterdam in the Netherlands is famous for its red light district in a city where prostitution is not only legal, it is licensed, regulated, and taxed as a revenue source by the government. Other human activities as well have been deemed legal in one location or at one time in human history and not in another, as humans continue to vary in their definition of what is right and what is wrong. My religion would teach that God understands perfectly well the process by which a civilization in the cosmos evolves and does not punish souls which participated in what process for behaviors they exhibited on a journey to their next understanding. Question number 3. What is the usefulness of the higher power? Can it even be used? My proposed answer: my religion would share that the higher power has immense usefulness if it is utilized with intention and attention, purpose, and focus. The religion would also share that God neither allows nor disallows, neither green lights nor red lights, specific occurrences or circumstances in the lives of sentient beings anywhere in the cosmos, but as I said, gives all sentient beings free will to do so. The religion would warn that, like all power, free will can be used in ways that produce intended or unintended, welcome or unwelcome results as measured by human standards. The religion would teach how to use higher power to manifest only intended events and circumstances, and even what humans would call miracles. My religion would also teach that God's energy, that we have aptly called our higher power, was meant to be used, and that it has been placed at the full disposal of all sentient beings in the cosmos as the primary tool with which to create, producing both their exterior collective reality and their interior individual reality. So how does this all sit with you? Any objections? Any concurrences? Perhaps you experience a little of both. Perhaps you can't embrace into the whole package, but there are a few elements which you agree. The trick here is to not allow the conversation to stop here. For instance, one more thought could beneficially be expressed here. The idea that a person or a company or an organization or a religion expressing pure love needs, wants, requires, expects, and even hopes for nothing in return for its expression does not mean that nothing would be openly and joyously accepted if it were freely and joyously offered by the world in return. Indeed, it is an act of pure love to receive life's gifts gracefully and graciously, For your receiving of the loving offering of others gives them the gift of expressing a part of themselves that brings them joy. It would be the antithesis of pure love if the love offering of another is something that givers of pure love felt they could not accept because it was not needed or expected. It is one thing not to expect anything in return for what you give. It is another thing to turn down what is offered. What stops the process of divine circulation? That stops the process of divine circulation. So that by all means, allow yourself to receive life's gifts as joyously as you give them. It would be wonderful to keep discussing all of this, as putting our highest ideas firmly into place could change our lives and help change the world. You can find me at www.neildonaldwalsh.com. There we can engage in ongoing exchanges on ways to understand and interact with God. As well, if you have a particular question you'd like to ask about any of the content here or in the body of work I have produced relating to the publication of my previous Conversation with God series of books, you'll find me at Ask Neil platform there regularly. You can also find me on my Facebook page at Facebook.com/Neil Donald Walsh. And let me spell that for everybody. It's Neil, Neale, Donald, Donald, and Walsh is Walsch. Feel free to stay in touch if it serves you to do so. With pure love, Neil. And then, hang on. This is a poem by M. Clare, his wife, his current wife. Is it made of love? I don't know if my God is the same as your God. Is it made of love? Does it want for you what you want for you? Does it come to you with hands opened, asking nothing, but ready for anything? Does it whisper to you as light and of stillness and point you toward any of the paths that will take you there? Does it remind you of your seeing? Does it remind you of your knowing? Does it remind you of the greatest lover you've ever dreamed, caressing a weariness from your heart? Is it ever late? Is it ever gone? Is it made of love? Done.
Oh, I messed something up.
We can hear you.
And now you can see me. Thank you for reading that, Linda.
I want to answer the question in the poem. Yes, yes, it is. Okay, thank you.
Good, Mary.
I love that
Good.
poem. I've read it before on the other books, but I love it.
I must say, I agree on the whole part of that ending. Everything said yes in me. That's how I look at God. So that was wonderful, very wonderful ending of this book. Thank you.
Well, Neil is definitely a wordsmith. There is no doubt about that. I was watching something this morning, and it was an interview with Neil. I have not watched the whole thing. I've only watched 5 minutes of it. And it's almost an hour and a half long. And Neil, the person, has a way of connecting with people, even when he's not trying to convince you, as it were, that God is real and God is there and God loves us and all those things. I was listening to Neil, the person, talk about there were three things going on in his life. He was separating from his current partner. He was in a really bad car accident where he broke his neck. And the third thing was he had just lost a job. And he was lying in bed being really angry with God, and he wanted some answers. And that's when he got up, went out to his living room, and he said it was a very, very modest place. So it was a little cottage, and on the coffee table was that yellow legal pad. Most of us have heard this story. And he just started asking God questions. And he just was talking about how that experience was a big deal. And that's where I didn't have time to keep watching it, or I would have missed this meeting that we have. And it's funny, I've heard Neil speak more times than I can tell you. And I've heard him tell stories about his parents, his sibling, the Catholic Church. I've, so many different subjects. And this book is no disappointment. It's another good book by Neil. And even though some of this stuff is a little repetitious, for me, that there's a purpose behind that. Like maybe I didn't pay attention to that the first time, and now it's time for me to really pay attention. But I enjoyed the book, is what I'm getting at. Over. Anybody else? Okay, then. Well, next week we'll be beginning The Only Thing That Matters by none other than Neil Donald Walsch. And we will take it from there. Does anybody want to do a little closing blessing since Shabana isn't here? Or do we just want to say we love each other and goodbye?
Boy, everybody's quiet today.
I know, I was going to say, everybody's very quiet. Well, I just want to say that I feel truly blessed to be in this group. And I enjoy being with you every week. And honestly, this week I really needed this. I had some tough things I had to deal with yesterday. And I honestly, I just couldn't wait for this group so that I could see my friends. So,
I kind of was feeling just then like maybe we should close the circle, so to speak. And I will do that if y'all don't mind, just a little closing of the circle.
that's fine with me.
I like that, Mary. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you to this God of pure love that we all understand in our heart for bringing us here together in this circle with these like-minded and like-hearted individuals to share this connection and this love and to help birth the new, which will be more this kind of God of pure love that we understand here and share in this circle. And we're all so happy to be here together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. That
Thank
was
you.
very beautiful. And I concur.
I don't have a timer, so we can just open our eyes when we want.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.
All
Thank
right,
you.
everybody. Anybody have any last minute things they want to say?
I just hope Bima's health is okay.
Yes, me
Yes,
too.
definitely.
It's just a ache in the back because I hit my back also. But the head is okay.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, we'll see everybody next week. New book. Same old friends. I love you all. And
Love
we'll
you all.
see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.